Anybody who's ever been in your corner that's been putting a lot of pressure and stress on you, they've been somebody who's been, giving you, we'll call it just a little bit more pressure than you need. They're often people who care so much that they think what they're doing is avoiding the pain of not seeing you succeed and gaining the pleasure of helping you succeed.
You're creating a standard in your head from what you believe to be is the right standard. However, you have no experience, regardless of how long you watch them for.
Yeah.
You didn't actually go through it yourself.
But even then, if you go to the root of it, it's people who you'll often see when you talk to them or ask them about it. They don't want you to make the same mistakes as them, or maybe they don't want you to, not reach your potential. Regardless of what it is, though, it's people with a genuine intent going about it the wrong way. Difference makers, what's up? Welcome back to the Difference Maker podcast. Hosts Matt and Chris Calderoni. This week we've got an interesting episode, I'll say, because it's something that we really, I'll say, it's one of the biggest challenges that we've noticed a lot of our youth athletes have ran into, and also a challenge that our pro athletes run into, especially when it comes down to them feeling like they need to impress others outside of their sport to some degree. So we're really going to cover the topic this week of how to deal with that person in your corner that might be a little bit crazy.
And just as a disclaimer to start off this episode, we're not attacking anyone by any means. It's a tough topic sometimes because often I find anyways, and not even just the athletes that we deal with, but even I think in our personal lives when we were younger as athletes, you always see that either yourself or that one kid going through it. But it's often the people that are closest to you that are the ones that are sometimes taking the piss a little bit.
And I'll tell you too, like even diving right into the topic, like this all came from, a situation that we were presented the other week. And long and short, one of your typical overly excited parents, which is normal, right? I also feel like that's something too that before we can dive into how to deal with them, we have to understand what's really happening. Mm-hmm. So when you have somebody that's in your corner, if you will, or on your team that's, just overly excited, they're constantly putting pressure on you and stress, and they're getting in your way a little bit more than they should. And they're are you doing this? Are you doing that? And they're really going in on you. Or maybe they make you feel like sometimes you have to be perfect. You have to understand something. And my wife always gives me crap for saying this, but people aren't inherently bad, right? And she turns and says, no, there are some. It's like, no, but hold on. People aren't inherently bad. You got to understand human psychology first before you can understand the crazy person in your corner, be it a parent, a coach, someone that really cares about you. Anybody who's ever been in your corner that's been putting a lot of pressure and stress on you, they've been somebody who's been, giving you, we'll call it just a little bit more pressure than you need. They're often people who care so much that they think what they're doing is avoiding the pain of not seeing you succeed and gaining the pleasure of helping you succeed.
Okay.
So you got to remember that wherever these people come from, it doesn't matter who it is, unless it's in an abusive situation where there's some kind of past demons and they take it out on you. But even then, if you go to the root of it, it's people who you'll often see when you talk to them or ask them about it. They don't want you to make the same mistakes as them, or maybe they don't want you to, not reach your potential. Regardless of what it is, though, it's people with a genuine intent going about it the wrong way.
See, I think that's the dangerous part where a lot of people, like you just said, one thing that stuck out to me is they don't want you to make the same mistakes that they did. However, they're not in the same situation as you.
Yeah.
And they don't have the exact same experience. So okay, maybe poor effort, this, that, or whatever. But if that doesn't translate to the actions that you're taking, you're creating a standard in your head from what you believe to be is the right standard. However, you have no experience, regardless of how long you watch them for.
Yeah.
You didn't actually go through it yourself, which I'm not saying
and it's not
that's for everyone. And it's not dumping on him, but not even for people like you and myself, coaches, that sure, we played the sport, not necessarily hockey or soccer or anything at the absolute peak professional level, but there's a point where you stay in your lane
Yeah.
and you understand and listen to their experience before you create impossible standards to uphold for them.
Yes.
Because you've never even been there. Even athletes that have retired, have played in a different era, and they see the game progress. You're not playing now.
No.
And the players that are playing now can't say shit about the people that were playing before.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day,
It's a different scenario.
you weren't there. Like, you really weren't
Yeah.
there. And it's tough, though.
Well, and that's why, though, it's coming back to the original point as well, before we dive into strategies and mechanisms on how to deal with it. That's why we called this episode For the Crazy Parent, right?
Yeah.
But it's, the whole point to it is, and to use humor around it, you really got to ask yourself, like, do you really feel like what you're doing is really helping your athlete avoid that pain of not succeeding to the level you want them to succeed at? And to Chris's point, it's often misinterpreted too. Like, we often hear, ex-pros, some of them who played in different eras compared to the modern day today. And it's like, oh, everybody's soft compared to back then. It's like, well, back then you also didn't have the heart rate monitors that we have now to monitor training. So a lot of times it was like, just spit on your wounds. Oftentimes you didn't have the tech we have now to recover from injuries. You didn't have the Norma techs even. So my point is like,
I will say, sorry, for those guys, they did find a way.
They did find a way, right? But it's like,
found a way.
But that's exactly what Chris is saying. Just because your way was your way before doesn't mean your way is the right way now. First. Secondly, if you are a parent that you see, and it's super frustrating where it's like, oh my God, I want to rip my kid's face off sometimes, right? Because it's like, you can see what potential they have, and they're just sitting on the other side of it. It's usually just sitting on the other side of it. You have to understand, though, on the second side, you're mistaking getting on them for habits with getting on them for performance results.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a major insight, because if you focused on the habit side, you'd actually be okay if you help them keep a high standard behind their habits in life. That translates to consistency. There's so many studies done too that show consistency in one area of life and consistency in another, right? The details. But the point is, to Chris's point, you can't be talking about performance standards if you've never played at that level. You can't be talking about performance standards if you've never been there before. You can't be talking about any of this stuff unless you've truly taken action on it before and done it successfully at the level that your athlete needs to. And there are some parents who are great with this.
Mm-hmm.
There's fantastic.
Completely.
But I will say, unfortunately, and this is no shot at them, and we say this all the time, there's never been a manual given to parents on how to deal with high performing athletes.
No. And I think it's that lack of clarity that kind of freaks people out a little bit. And then you try to take control of the things that you've done in the past, which your standard of work, your effort, how you're scheduled and you're regimented. But again, you cannot apply that to things you don't understand, and do not be the one that is going to convince yourself that you know what the hell you're talking about.
Yep. That's often it.
Again, there are major talking points that parents can have with athletes. Like, there's, hey, I saw you doing this. Your coach said you should be focusing on this. That's huge.
Yep.
That's the connection part that you can say, hey, remember when coach said this? I saw you doing this. You have something to back up your claim. Bang.
Yeah.
There's your simple connection. Or standard of effort or whatever. Like soccer, you have 90 minutes of effort that you have to think about, like how you manage yourself on the field. You played as a goalkeeper, but as a outfield player, like there's things you have to manage that coaches tell you behind closed doors, that there's different systems of play that parents don't know. Mm-hmm. Parents don't know unless they're there in the room learning it with you.
Right.
Because you have coach telling you one thing, you have parent telling you another thing, and nothing matches up. What is that going to do to the player?
Yep.
Well, realistically, and I know, like, some parents, they understand they're doing what they're doing, which is completely fine. But Jesus Christ, stop it. Yeah. Because you're making your child either hate the sport or hate you.
Yep. And this is, to Chris's point, This is why, too, because I've seen this even on the professional side where significant others of athletes, male and female, get way too involved, right? On the same stint where it's like, I just want my husband or wife to be great. It's like, well, it doesn't happen based on the way you think it happens.
No.
There's so many different factors. So to the first point, you have to understand, if you are a crazy parent, at the root of it all,
and guys, when we say crazy parent,
we're like, joking around.
You're full of love. We love you.
But hey, let's talk real for a sec, though. It's based on the label that's been created in youth sports.
Well, yeah,
and you know who you are if I say crazy parent. So forget the context or forget the other stuff. Just look at it this way. My point is, though, if you're somebody who's you're putting too much on your athlete, the first thing you need to understand. People do things to avoid pain and gain pleasure. So what we're saying right away is, we love you. We know that you're trying to help them. We know that you're doing your best to do that. You just get excited about things. That's the reality. So the second part comes to, you need to understand first in order to shift this behavior, because if you're on this podcast and you're listening to this episode, chances are you want to shift your behavior in some way, shape, or form, or you want to learn more about it if you're an athlete. So we'll give a strategy for both ways. But if you're a parent, and you're putting too much on your athlete, you have to understand, to Chris's point, your athlete's going to get to a point that eventually they're going to say, like, don't talk to me. And we've seen extreme cases, like very extreme, like we're talking
100%.
Never speaking to you as a parent in a sporting environment, period, again.
And let me bring it to an extreme, because some people don't like to just go surface level. They will resent you for the rest of their life because you have taken away an opportunity from them that they will never, ever get back.
Yep.
So understand that. Like, and again, I'm not getting upset, but like you need to understand the extremes of the potential. Like, you see the potential in your kid. We see the potential in the relationship completely falling apart. And then, it's off to the races, where before there was a path and now there's nothing.
Yep.
And it's a hard thing to understand, but like, even if you understand that you are this, take 2 or 3 weeks off from going to the game with your child and just listening to the other parent or have them just explain what went on that game.
Yeah.
Because like, it's almost an addiction.
Yes, it is. Actually, you know what it becomes? Actually, a behavioral flaw. In that sense, where it does become like an addiction, where it does become like I have to put input in. It's like, you don't have to put input in, man.
And then the thing is, like, and then you beat yourself up, because I know, especially for people that know what they're doing and how they can be, because then you go home afterwards and you just beat yourself up.
Like
and
crap.
It's like, like, I feel for you, because it's just a cycle. It's a cycle of, and the wool is being pulled over your eyes. You want your kid to have the best. You want your athlete, whoever it is, spouse, whatever, you want them to have the best. And what's that thing called, the puppy love, when you squeeze them too tight,
and you kill them
and the puppy dies?
Yep.
That's exactly what's happening. And then you feel bad afterwards, and then it goes back on you, and then you take the blame, and you don't need to do that. You really don't need to do that.
Yeah. And the point, and the reason, guys, we're going in so much on this right now is because it is severe. Like, we've seen long-term mental health effects happen because of an athlete who had a parent who was way over the top, or a significant other way over the top. I've seen marriages fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's go to another extreme. I've seen the athlete resent the parent, and because of how bad it was between the parent and the athlete, I've seen those marriages fall apart between the two parents, right? Because it's like, how could you treat our kid this way?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen there's so many consequences long term that if you start thinking long term, you can easily have a solution to this. But you need to start asking yourself the question. If you're a parent who wants to change, here's how you're going to do it. Number one, you need to realize right away. Ask yourself this. If I continue down this path, how is my relationship going to be with my child long term? And not a month from now.
Yeah, not next week or tomorrow or whatever.
2 years from now.
Yeah.
2+ years from now. Let's pretend, and you got to go down both roads. Like, I was at a big training event that we were doing with a company a couple weeks ago. And one of the big things, it's like, why do you need to follow through on your behavior? And you condition it with pain or pleasure, right? People were sitting there crying, right? About some of the things that they could see their current behaviors were taking them down a road, and what their new behaviors would. So you need to see the road your current behaviors are taking you down. And if you're saying, well, hey, look, they appreciate it at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you, to Chris's point, the wool's being pulled over your eyes. Like, let's really dissect that for a bit. You really, truly, honestly believe that your athlete is loving going to their performances, feeling miserable, but still getting the result? Mm-hmm. So let's pretend they do get the result, and it's as a result of you, really going in on them. Do you truly and honestly believe that your athlete is sitting there saying, oh, you know what? That was so worth it. It's so worth it to live in anxiousness and fear every day, in annoyance every day, in stress every day, in frustration every day. It's worth the good result. I'm going to tell you what happens because we've seen it before. Your kid's going to quit prematurely.
Or worse off, they're going to keep going. At 18, they're never going to talk to you ever again.
Yep. Hey, we've seen the scenario. We're not trying to share horror stories. We're here to share the truth.
No, we are, and it is horror stories. Right? Like, this is legitimate stuff that is going to happen.
Yes.
In one shape, form, or another, it's going to happen. So, I mean, it's and actually, what's nice about this entire thing, you do have control.
Yep. You do have full control. Everybody has control, man. People that say, oh, I can't help it. You can help it. You're choosing not to. So last horror story, and then we'll give you the strategies to actually change. But there's an athlete we have, 17 years old, doesn't talk to one of his parents anymore because of how the parent was between the ages that this athlete was growing up between 12 to 17 years old. Finally, at 16, he decided to say, I'm not doing it. I'm done talking to you. And he has iced this parent. Mm-hmm. Iced. In a separated family. In fact, there's 3 scenarios we have of that to some degree around different ages. But iced the parent. Like in a separated household, right? So you got to think of something. Goes to mom or dad's on the weekend or during the week, lives with them. They don't ever have to talk to you again. That's literally what's happening in one of the scenarios. And it's sad to see. But it's like, hey, man. There was what you're not realizing you're doing as a parent is you're verbally abusing the kid. Mm-hmm. Think about that, right? Then let's talk about the mental abuse that happens. I know a lot of people are, oh, mental, emotional abuse, that's not real. No, hold on a second. We've seen parents who have come into locker rooms before and have come into team settings and have completely gone in on the kid. What do you think that does now for the kid's mentality going into that environment? There's an association of pain. When there's an association of pain, subconsciously, your kid's not going to do what they need to do, nor are they going to want to. And then the last part, which I will say we've seen in 1 or 2 extreme scenarios where kids have come to us after. Thankfully, it's never happened with us during, but after as a recovering side, we've seen kids get physically abused by their parents, mm-hmm. right? And it might be something simple. We've seen, from a swat of a hand to certain things. And if you're at that point, look, I know that's a very extreme, maybe 10% of the cases, but it gets there. It gets there. And arguably, the mental and emotional implications that happen later down the road based on your current behaviors are the things that are the most demonic things you can see. We've seen kids with PTSD from it. Mm-hmm. We've seen it. And if you're a parent and you even feel like you're drawing on the line right now, you need to understand that that's usually a good enough question to ask yourself, am I doing it right? Now, let's take a quick second to side branch on tough love. Tough love is much different. Tough love means that you have a very clear understanding of what your kid wants. Your kid has a very clear understanding of what role you play, and you play by that role. That's tough love. You can hold them accountable then.
Yeah.
Right? But there's a communication. That's rapport. Rapport is just absolute communication between 2 people. Often what happens though, absolute understanding between 2 people. Often happens, the parent has the understanding, the kid doesn't. There's no communicated boundaries, guidelines, nothing to it, no rules to communication. And as a result of that, parent usually overcoaches the player. Player doesn't really want it. Player then has the coach who's going in on them because they're not doing what coach is asking them to do. And it becomes this whole debacle that is only putting your kid through mental and arguably physical turmoil. It's how this works. So we're not talking about tough love. So remember, tough love is when you hold somebody accountable because they've asked you to do so.
Yeah, there's clarity in their role. There's clarity in what they have to do. There's an understanding of this is the standard that needs to be met based off of A, B, C.
Yeah. Or look, one of the easiest things we do with our athletes when we work with them too, you got to remember, we're dealing with people who are at the youth level as well as the pro level, multi-million-dollar athletes. But the one thing we always ask them is, how do you want us to hold you accountable? How do you want us to hold you accountable? What role do you need me to play? Do you need me to be somebody who's constantly sending you reminder text messages? Because oftentimes our athletes start off that way. And then they branch off and do their own thing. Do you need me to give you the tough love? What do you need? How do you need me to communicate with you? Sorry, go on.
And I was going to say, and there's one thing I want to make very clear. If you have a top athlete and you're fearful of them dropping their standard or whatever the case may be, you have to understand they did not get there because of you.
Yep.
They did not get there because of you. They put their body through hell for however many years in order to get there.
They took action. You funded it 100%. I am not taking that away That's
from
commendable.
anything. But they did not get there because of you. They did it from their own actions. They did it from their own commitment. You played a part 100%, but it was not because of you. And if it was because of you, that athlete will not go to where you want them to go because they are not doing it for themselves.
Well, and this is where the what's the term I'm looking for? The diminishing returns of your words start to happen. This is where you can start going in on them as much as you want, but you're still not going to get the result from them that you want, because eventually everyone says they're going to tune you out. That's why we often have, if you want to check out down below, you can apply to have, see if you guys are a good fit to work with us. But oftentimes the third party neutral side is the best way to go. It's why a coach often has more impact, even though you are probably saying the same things. We're just saying it differently.
Mm-hmm.
The head coach is saying it differently. The mental coach is saying it differently. The strength coach is saying it differently. The strength coach, mental coach, head coach, whatever, also don't live with the athlete most of the time. Sometimes your father or mother is your coach. That's a different story. But my point is, there's a proper level of separation there that makes them respect communication. So let's talk strategies now that we've got hopefully everybody into a place of pain where they know that they need to take action. Strategy number 1, before you decide to give any kind of feedback to your athlete, you need to get very clear on communication guidelines and rules. So here's how this happens for you. You go up to your athlete, doesn't matter if you're a spouse, doesn't matter if you're a parent, and you say to them, what role do you need me to play in your athletic performance? Do you need me to hold you accountable? Would you like me to send you reminders? Would you like me to, be a sounding board? Oftentimes, I will be a spoiler alert here. Oftentimes, athletes just want a sounding board. They don't want advice given from a significant other or a parent. And it's not because they look at you any lower. It's because you're a safe person for them to vent to. That's how this should be, right? They're not going to go to their coach and tell them about a breakup they had. They're not going to go to their coach and tell them about, how frustrated they are with a certain thing going on in their life. Sometimes they will. Oftentimes they won't. And if you're that safe person, you need to keep that role. I'm telling you right now, this is a role. Look, as a parent, Chris said it before, you're not the reason that they got there. Yes, you funded it. You've put the effort in to make sure they get there. But you have to realize you are seen almost as like the saving grace. To the child. You're the parent.
You're their strategy, man.
Yes.
You're there. You can take a look at the overall picture as to what they've done, and you can take a look at it and say, okay, this is potentially the next move.
Yeah. You should be helping them make decisions, not coaching them up, not holding them accountable to a standard. That's not your specialty.
If they're afraid to ask you questions about any part of their sport, there's an issue.
Big time.
There's an issue.
Big time. And that's why it's like, number 1, you need to get very clear on the role your athlete wants. It's a very simple thing to do. You pull them aside, you sit down with them one-on-one. If you have other kids, make sure it's just you and the one athlete. If it is your significant other, make sure it's just you and them, nobody else. Do it in a safe place. and ask them, what kind of role do you need me to play in your athletic development?
Yeah.
Do you need me to be a sounding board? Do you need me to hold you accountable? If you do need me to hold you accountable, how do you want me to hold you accountable? You need to get very clear on that. That is absolutely number one. You need to get clear on your role and the rules and the guidelines of your communication. That's number one. Number two, once you get very clear on the role you need to play, you need to understand what advice you potentially do have to offer and value you can truly offer your athlete.
Because you do.
You have a lot.
You really do.
But the truth is this. If you, we see this all the time, this scenario. Parent who's an executive, kid who's a high-performing athlete, parent tries to apply the same executive tools to the athlete. That often doesn't work because you're talking about two completely different environments. Now, if you do, though, have very good time management skills and abilities, your best bet isn't to try and just force time management on your athlete. Your best bet in this scenario, knowing that you can give them this advice, would be to teach them time management. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference. So, if you know that the best value you can provide to your athlete is helping them organize their week because you're good at that, run them through a little training session with you. Hey, Johnny, this is how you need to organize your week. You should do it every Sunday. It makes it much clearer for you, and it's much easier for you to do. Hey, Sarah, here's the best way that you can get to bed on time. Make sure this is happening, that's happening, this happening. But the point is, if you switch the mindset from I need to coach up to I need to teach my kids the skills in life, there's a much different scenario. So that's why, number two, understand what value you can provide to your athlete. Mm-hmm. And if you are an ex-athlete in the sport, to Chris's point earlier, you need to really ask yourself, though, are you working in collaboration with the head coach or not to give advice on that? Now, the best way to stay away from that is you can simply help them. If you are an ex-athlete and you're great at skills, help them refine their skill, right? But you shouldn't be coaching them up on their team tactics. That's not for you. Now, usually there is an understanding between these kinds of parents and the head coach, right? There's a very good one that's established. But you need to realize if you're somebody who's pulling your athlete in one direction and head coach is pulling them in another and they're doing what you say, your athlete is going to lose 90% of the time.
Mm-hmm. Even if they're top. Yep. Even if they're a top player.
I hate to say it because now your athlete's seen as a problem. And I hate to say it, but the coaches from working with youth teams, coaches do know where the second voice is coming from. They're not foolish.
And I'm sure the parent has even had this experience with people that they deal with at work.
Absolutely.
Like you know.
You know when someone's getting coached up.
So, I don't know.
So the second thing, is to make sure that you understand the value you can truly provide to your athlete. Usually it's through skill development, not in sport, unless you're an ex-athlete who played at that level and was successful at that level, not just played there, but was successful. Then you can offer skill refinement. But 90% of the time, it's going to be skill refinement. That's what it's going to be. You often can't offer strategy and tactic unless you're like an assistant coach on the team in some way. You often can only talk about skill refinement and use. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to, right? The third major thing, once you've done this, you need, if you're somebody who tends to break their patterns or break their habits and they don't get consistent, the unfortunate truth is, you need to understand that you might need somebody in your corner to help hold you accountable. Meaning that maybe you need your spouse, if you are a parent of a youth athlete, maybe you need your significant other to hold you accountable to how you're supposed to be holding them accountable, right? That's often a great time. Pull the neutral side. Or the best way to do this, work with us here at Molliteum. Apply in our coaching programs. Part of our coaching programs with youth athletes that we make sure to cover, we're not just working with the athlete, we're working full circle with you as a parent as well, because you impact the athlete. So down below, there's a link to apply to our programs if you would like. We only accept certain people that we feel can be successful with our program and make it, but the point is, it's there if you want it. So you need accountability. That's the third major thing. Once you understand what value you can provide, and once you understand that you're somebody who's here to make sure and you know the role that you're playing, you need to have somebody hold you accountable. You can't just go off of it, right? You can't just say, oh, I'm going to get it. If you're somebody that slips a lot, which you probably will be, emotion gets tied up in the game, you need to understand what it is there that you need someone to help you with. And the final thing, the fourth thing, you need to really ask yourself what the end result is here that you're going for. You want your kid to become a pro? If that's what your kid has communicated to you and that's what they want to do and that's where they want to go, ask yourself, am I doing what's absolutely best to develop them into a professional athlete without burning them out?
And you know what? Take 2 weeks to do that.
Yeah.
Don't go to their game, figure your shit out, and take 2 weeks to figure out what Matt just said.
Yeah. What's the end result here? And how do I get it without burning my athlete out? Guys, I'm going to tell you, as parents tuning into this, majority of athletes that come to us now are overwhelmed, they're burnt out, and they're underperforming. That's the truth. They have coaches who at the youth level now, because of the payments they get to some degree, are now putting more pressure on the kids, which happens. And the kid is also putting pressure on themselves with all the other things happening in their life, from school to sport to everything. If you're a parent who's going through this, you need to ask yourself, what is the desired end result here that I've communicated with my kid? If it's a scholarship, it's a scholarship. If it's just making the team a level above, it's just making the team the level above. But the point is, you need to ask yourself, what's the end result and how do I help them get there without burning them out? That's what this does. At the end of the day, your communication style and so on, it's just burning out your athlete.
Yeah. And again, as you know, you guys, people listening might think we're fear mongering, whatever. This is what we've seen. This is, the experiences that we've had. This is stuff that we've seen even as kids with players that we've played with.
Yep.
And it's like, I wonder what happened to Johnny. Well, he stopped in high school because of this, and this.
Yep.
So again, some people, I personally think they need to see the extreme side of things.
Well, no, sorry. To Chris's point, you will not change. Let's be clear for a second. The
100%.
reason we went down that road of pain, you won't change until you look at your actions and see how it's causing pain and not pleasure.
Yeah.
That's the only way to change, man. You can't come through something and be like, oh, I'm going to change. It's like, no, everybody does things to change how they feel. And it's the reason that you're pushing your kid. It's too painful for you not to see them be successful. And the pleasure on the other side is seeing them be successful. So you do what you do. Does that mean we're always going to use the best strategies to get out of pain? No. Mm-hmm. Was your intent good? Of course it was. It usually starts off, unless you have some kind of internal demon that you're dealing with that you want to see your kid fail or another kid fail. If you're a coach that's doing the same thing to a kid, it's a different story. We have an athlete that we're working with. Heck, man, a coach who's supposed to be developing these young athletes into professionals. That's literally the role of this team that this kid's playing on. And what does he do every day? He comes in with a vendetta and he just lays into the kid. And I'll be honest, we're some of our harshest critics on our athletes to make sure that they get the best results, but we do so in a positive way. I'll tell you, this kid had nothing that he was doing that went in there. When we did deeper research on who this coach was and where this individual came from and got to go behind the scenes with the people that we knew, it was that this guy has an internal demon. Mm-hmm. Didn't make it to the level he wanted to. Felt like crap about it. Now takes it out on kids. Has a history of doing so. That is something you need to go find your own help for and not take out on kids and coaching kids. But on the parent side, who has an absolute intent to help their kid get to the next level, and you're just maybe struggling a little bit on how you're delivering that information, that's okay. That's okay. No one gave you a handbook. Mm-hmm. We're going to give you it, though. So, to keep it very simple, 4 major things you need to do. Number 1, actually, let's go with 5. Number 1, understand how your current actions are causing your child pain. Okay. Not pleasure, not helping them. What is the implication of your behaviors 3+ years down the road from now? Once you do that, number 2, you got to ask yourself, am I having a clear communicative role with my athlete? If you're not, go establish that right now. 99.9% of parents will not have had that. Number 3, you need to ask yourself now, okay, now that I can help my athlete and I have a very clear guideline on what I can help them with and how to communicate, what specific value can I provide to them to help them along this process? Number 4, once you do that, you have to really make sure that you're now in a place where you are understanding exactly what the end result is. And finally, like we were saying, it's really just making sure that you are now having somebody hold you accountable. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to think you're doing a good job, but nobody's going to be able to coach you personally.
Yeah. And you know what? What's nice about this is now that you've listened to this episode, this full episode, there is no excuse.
Yep.
There's no excuse.
You can go back. You can change.
There's no excuse. So you have the control, you have the options, you have the clarity now. It's really just taking action.
That's it. Take action, do so consistently, and don't play no games. Look, if you're listening to this episode, it's evidently because in some way, shape, or form, you thought you were doing something that was harming your athlete. If so, congrats. That's your first step. It's becoming aware. And that's a big first step. Just listening to a podcast episode that makes you uncomfortable, that's a major first step. So good for you. But the next step now, number 1, make sure that your kid is okay, which, if you want to apply to our coaching programs, you can click the link down below. We'll see if you're a good fit to work with us. But then number 2, once you make sure your kid's okay, make sure you have the right strategies and tools in place to never do that again.
Yeah, because the
action
at the next game, the action at the next performance is going to be the biggest test, because that's when emotions go high. That's when shit hits a fan. And that's when your child might not even play the best game. But after you have said or declared, hey, I'm sorry for this, this, and this, if the action doesn't match that right afterwards, there was no point. No point in saying anything.
Yep. So, with that being said, down below, you can find a link to our pocket coaching program if you would like. You can also find a link to our newsletter, which is free, giving you resilience tips every single week. And if you do want to have your son or daughter work with us, just click the link down below, apply for a coaching position. We have to make sure to go through applicants so that we can make sure, A, we can even help, and B, if you're even a good fit for what we're doing here, to make sure that you get the best results, of course, and the ROI on your investment that you make. So with that being said, stay resilient. You can be better. You will be better. And if you need help, reach out. Comment below if you're tuning in from YouTube. If you do need extra help, just send us an email. We're there. What is it? Support@molliteum.com?
Yeah, support@molliteum.com.
We're there. It's a big enough step for you as a parent. So you've got this. Take action. We'll see you soon.